right, I want to continue, or actually finish up, hopefully today, about anxiety and the relationship anxiety has to brain chemicals, so-called neuro, meaning nerve, transmitters. They transmit nerve energy in the brain. These brain chemicals are called neurotransmitters, and they include things like acetylcholine and GABA and glutamate. GABA is associated with relaxation. Glutamates, which many of you guys have heard of in terms of their excitotoxic potential. Glutamates are excitatory, and they're balanced out by GABA. Glutamate mimics or glutamate imitation elements have been used in ingredients in food to improve their taste. MSG is a famous glutamate, the most famous probably glutamate, and these kinds of excitatory brain chemicals are added to food to excite the brain into liking the foods that ordinarily the brain wouldn't ever go near, the body would never go near. But by putting these excitatory brain chemical analogs, if you will, simulators of brain chemicals, simulators of excitatory brain chemicals, the brain goes, yippee! It's really happy to see its Spam and its slushies and its Campbell's Chunky Soup or whatever kind of foods these excitotoxins are in. By exciting the brain is happy. The brain likes these foods that it ordinarily wouldn't like. All of a sudden it's happy to see because of these excitatory chemicals that are added to the food. Because the brain's sensitivity to these excitatory chemicals, the excitation inhibition balance is very important in the brain. By throwing in these excitatory chemicals into foods, food manufacturers may be upping their sales by increasing or improving the taste of their foods. Problem is, these things are toxic to the brain. The balance of excitatory and inhibitory chemicals is very important. When you start to take in excitatory chemicals artificially through foods, you end up with a toxic effect, hence the term excitotoxin. One of the most interesting, fascinating of the brain hormones, of the neurotransmitters, is stuff called dopamine. Medical professionals know about dopamine as it regards Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is associated with a breakdown in dopamine chemistry in the brain. There's a degeneration of an area of the brain that's responsible for the production of dopamine when you have Parkinson's disease. This area of the brain actually is kind of black in color. The brain has a kind of gray tinge, hence the term gray matter, and there's actually blacker or darker areas in the brain. Technically, this dark area of the brain is called the black substance, in Latin, substantia nigra, meaning the black substance. And this substantia nigra, this black area of the brain, produces melanin. It has a high concentration of melanin. The same kind of melanin that's in the skin is actually in the brain. The same tanning pigment that we have in the skin that protects us from the sun is actually located in the brain. And you ask yourself, why would there be a pigment in the brain? Why would there be a protective pigment in the brain, a pigment that ordinarily protects the skin from the sun? Why would that be located in the nervous system, in the brain? Well, it turns out that melanin is super highly conductive stuff. It's electrically active. It's actually being explored for its use in biological electrical circuits. There are people who are trying to figure out how to get electrical circuitry made out of biological substances, and melanin is one of these materials that's being used. As it turns out, in addition to being important for movement, dopamine is well known as a movement chemical, and that's where you get Parkinson's symptoms from a breakdown in the areas that produce dopamine. Without enough dopamine, you can't really move smoothly. But dopamine is involved in a lot more than movement. Dopamine is actually considered to be a reward neurotransmitter. It's a pleasure neurotransmitter. It's associated with pleasure, reward, addictive behaviors, and deficiencies in dopamine are linked to anxiety. Deficiencies in dopamine are linked to what's called anhedonia, which is a lack of the ability to get pleasure. We're hardwired to get pleasure from moving our bodies. This is the link between dopamine and pleasure. We're hardwired to get pleasure from movement, to get pleasure from activity. There's a lesson here for people who are suffering from depression and people who are suffering from anxiety. A lot of times people who are depressed aren't moving around. And this could be a vicious cycle, of course, because lack of movement can induce depression, and then depression can induce more lack of movement. You just don't feel like doing anything, and you sit around, and that can cause more depression, more brain problems, and that causes more lack of movement and more brain problems. You get this downward spiral. There's a clue here. Physical activity and muscle movement are associated with pleasure. I know how it feels when you get up in the morning, you know you got to go out and run, you know you got to go out and exercise, but you feel better after you do it. We are rewarded biochemically for exercise. because the body wants to move. It wants to exercise. And mentally, we may have a resistance to it. In terms of our higher brain functions, we think, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to get on the treadmill. But underneath that, there is a biochemical reward system that kicks in when we do work out, and that's why we feel better after a workout. Physical activity means pleasure. Muscle movement means pleasure. There's other ways you can increase dopamine, not just exercise and not just moving your body around. And some of these ways of increasing dopamine are not necessarily so beneficial. This is one of the reasons for drug addiction. This is one of the reasons why we self-medicate with drugs, illegal or otherwise, to regulate our dopamine. Many addictive behaviors are linked to dopamine increase. There's a relationship between addiction, addictive behaviors, and pleasure and reward. Addictive behaviors can be linked to dopamine increase, and it may be that our addictions, whether we're addicted to gambling or we're addicted to food or thrill-seeking behaviors, bungee jumping, people are addicted to all kinds of stuff, may be that our addictive behaviors are really unconscious ways that we unconsciously self-medicate, ways that we unconsciously attempt to upregulate our dopamine production. Many addictive drugs increase dopamine production. Amphetamine, methamphetamine, cocaine. These are all associated with stimulation of the production of dopamine. You don't necessarily need to use illegal drugs to bump up your dopamine. You can use cottage cheese to bump up your dopamine. According to Dr. Eric Braverman, anyway, in the book The Edge Effect, he says cottage cheese, turkey, beans, oats, wheat germ, these are all dopamine boosting foods. There's actually an over-the-counter medication that people take sometimes, unwittingly, perhaps anyway, to upregulate their dopamine production. I'll tell you what that is when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. Got lines open for you, 844-236-6010, 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be back after this. Okay, got some lines open for you, 844-236-6010. We're talking dopamine, brain chemicals, anxiety. A lot of drug addictions are associated with trying to jack up our dopamine levels, self-medicating. You can use foods. According to Dr. Eric Braverman, turkey is a great food for boosting dopamine levels, so is cottage cheese. And you can use over-the-counter drugs. Not that I'm recommending that, but just so you know, just for full disclosure, you can actually use over-the-counter drugs to bump up dopamine levels, specifically antihistamines. Benadryl is associated with a bump up in dopamine levels, and this can have implications for folks who are dealing with movement disorders, Parkinson's disease. I haven't really seen anything definitive about using Benadryl or using antihistamines for Parkinson's disease, but just from a biochemistry standpoint, kind of makes sense because Benadryl is associated with jacking up dopamine levels. I'm not saying to go out and do Benadryl. Benadryl will make you really sleepy. It's got a drowsy kind of effect. All antihistamines have a drowsiness effect, or most antihistamines do, but they also have it, at least theoretically, you may be able to bump up your dopamine levels by using antihistamines. There's also a cocaine-like effect associated with antihistamines and with Benadryl. Cocaine and other addictive drugs and compulsive behaviors, gambling, eating, bungee jumping, shopping, internet addiction, all of these are linked to dopamine release. Dopamine is the reward chemical. It's a chemical of reward. And this might be, by the way, important information for folks who are trying to wean themselves off of drugs. If you're trying to wean yourself off of cocaine, or you wean yourself off of a prescription drug that you're using, you may want to think about using foods to up your dopamine levels, or using pleasure to up your dopamine levels. Wouldn't it be nice to get massages when you're trying to wean yourself off of drugs? Wouldn't that be nice? You're trying to wean yourself off of drugs and you're all jittery and going through your withdrawal. What if you rewarded yourself with a massage? Every time, once a day or twice a day for a couple of weeks as you were trying to wean yourself off a drug, you could anticipate getting a massage. Just think about something relaxing, hot tubs, massages. Anything that's relaxing and soothing, I kind of get a sense that there's a sort of feeling of pleasure that's associated even with thinking about these kinds of things. Well, that sense of pleasure that you get when you think about getting a massage, or you think about some kind of relaxing activity, just thinking about these kinds of things can up your brain chemicals, can up your dopamine. So if you're trying to wean yourself off of a drug or any kind of addictive behaviors, you might want to think about accessing your pleasure chemistry by getting a massage or getting in a hot tub or any of these kinds of behaviors that we feel like they're indulgent. We're told in our culture, there's this belief system, there's this mind virus, this meme that relaxing behaviors, naps and massages and hot tubs, that somehow these are lazy, that you don't feel like working, that you're not producing, that you're violating this Protestant work ethic that we seem to be saturated in, that we're immersed in our culture. But nothing could be further from the truth. We're more productive when we're relaxed. We're more productive when we've accessed our pleasure chemistry. We feel like working more when we're happier and we're satisfied and we're indulging in pleasure chemistry. So as you're weaning off of and by the way, sugar will jack up your dopamine levels too. Sugar addiction is a way that we jack up dopamine. So if you're trying to wean yourself off of sugar or drugs or cocaine or whatever your particular addiction or obsession is, you may want to consider using dopamine-boosting foods, increasing dopamine-boosting foods in your diet, and using dopamine-boosting supplements. B-complex can have some dopamine-boosting effects. B-complex is your brain vitamins. B for brain, B for building, B for brain. I call the B vitamins the brain vitamins or the building vitamins. You can also use chromium. Chromium is part of the Sweeties product, and that can also help bump up your dopamine levels. There's a supplement called Tyrosine. Tyrosine is an amazing supplement. We've talked about this in the past as being a pick-me-up supplement, and it is. Make you a little jittery if you do too much. I suppose all pick-me-up supplements can make you a little jittery if you do too much, so don't do too much tyrosine. But tyrosine is like a dopamine chassis. That's the way the body creates chemicals. It'll attach different accessories, if you will, to chassis, and these chassis oftentimes are nutrients. So we'll eat a food, it'll have nutrients in it. That nutrient will get broken out of the food, go into the blood, and then the body will use that nutrient as a chassis, and it'll start to attach various accessories to create various chemicals. Well, tyrosine is one such chassis. It's a dopamine chassis. And the brain will attach different things and kind of tweak it around a little bit to make dopamine. So if you're trying to wean yourself off of an addictive drug, if you got problems with anxiety or anhedonia, which is a fancy way of saying lack of pleasure, or you're not getting enough pleasure, try using a little bit of tyrosine, 100 or 200 milligrams once or twice a day. Don't take it too close to bedtime. Take it too close to bedtime, you're going to have a problem sleeping. And so do it first thing in the morning, or maybe at 10 a.m., and you may find that it's a lot easier for you to wean yourself off of your prescription drugs or your illegal drugs or your obsessive addictive disorders, or your bungee jumping disorder, your shopping disorder, whatever it is that you're addicted to. If you're hypothyroid, if you've got low thyroid, and so many people do, you may also have some dopamine issues because the thyroid is important for making dopamine. Thyroid is important for making everything, but if you're hypothyroid, that may not happen. Also, tyrosine is a key component of thyroid hormone. Not only is it a chassis for dopamine, it's a chassis for making thyroid hormone. So if you're hypothyroid, or you have problems with dopamine, or you just want to have a little pick-me-up, or you want to feel a little bit more excited about life, try a little tyrosine. Might make you a little jittery. Don't take it too close to bedtime. And you might have to play with the amount you take until you find a dose that doesn't amp you up too much. According to Dr. Helen Fisher, she writes books on love. I forgot the name of her book, classic book on love and relationships. According to Dr. Fisher, just looking at a picture of someone we're attracted to can raise your dopamine levels. This is one reason why we like to carry around pictures of our loved ones. Just looking at their picture. Don't you feel a little pleasure and just a warm, fuzzy feeling when you look at your loved one, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your kid? Well, guess what? As you're gazing at that picture, at least according to Dr. Fisher, you're upregulating your dopamine levels. How do you like that for non-medical strategies? Just carry around a picture of your loved one. One of the best anti-anxiety drugs you can use. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We'll be back right after this. All right, we're back on The Bright Side. So many of you guys, I've gotten tons of emails and Facebooks about my new skin health line. I'm calling it a skin health line because it's all about skin health, not skin care, skin health. The truth, skin health products. They'll be out here hopefully in a couple of weeks, and keep listening to this radio program and the GCN network. You'll hear more about it in the coming days, and we'll talk about it on the radio program when the products come out. We'll spend some time talking about skincare, skin health, nutrients that you can use for skin health, and ways that you can use products for skin health. I'm I've been formulating products, skin health products now, since my days with the Blistex Corporation in the early 1980s. Can you believe it? And you wouldn't believe, by the way, guys, how much more we know about skin structure than we did in the early 1980s. Back in those days, we didn't have any idea about how the skin regenerated itself, about moisture factors, really in the dark in a lot of ways as to the molecular nature or the submolecular nature and the cellular and subcellular nature of the skin. We really didn't know a lot about it until maybe the middle of the 1980s and beyond. But back in 1980, 81, 82, 83, it was very basic science. And there wasn't a lot of information out there, and skincare products today are just based on these old ideas, and that's one of the problems why people are not satisfied with their skin health. Anyway, we'll be talking about that in the coming days. Our number is 844-236-6010. Helen Fisher, who writes about love issues. She's got a book called The Anatomy of Love, great book, Why We Love, a couple other books basically on relationships and love. She talks about how you can just jack up your dopamine levels when you're feeling anxious by looking at pictures of a loved one. Gazing at a picture of someone we're attracted to raises dopamine levels. Get a picture of your kid, especially a baby picture. Get a baby picture of your spouse, your boyfriend or girlfriend. Look at the picture lovingly, especially the eyes. According to Dr. Fisher, looking into somebody's eyes can actually raise your dopamine levels. So get yourself a picture of a loved one, or baby, or spouse, or someone you really care about. Look into the eyes in the picture, and you'll notice, depending on how much love and affection that this person inspires, that you're starting to relax just by looking at a picture. There's a smartphone app called Tinder, Tinder. It's a relationship app, and it actually shows you pictures of people that you may or may not like or want to date. And according to Dr. Fisher anyway, just this Tinder app, looking at pictures in this Tinder app can help raise your dopamine levels. This is all the reason I'm bringing this up, this is all in the interests of using non-medical strategies to address our health. These strategies are tried and true. They've been tested, they've been reported on in peer-reviewed journals. Physicians and scientists and medical folks will call it psycho, brain, mental, psychology, psycho, neuro, nerves, immunology, the immune system, the defense system. Psychoneuroimmunology is the effect that our psychology has on our immune system. There's just a study I read about this yesterday from Carnegie Mellon University. Study from Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh found that people who are hugged frequently appear to have a reduced risk of getting a cold or getting the flu. How do you like that? A hug can be the best flu vaccine. There are 406 men and women who answered questions daily for 2 weeks about their social support networks, and that included how often they were hugged. And it turns out that the more hugging that people got, more times people were hugged, the less likely they were to get the flu or catch a cold. These are not airy-fairy ideas, folks. These are tried and true strategies. They don't involve doctors. They don't involve toxicity. And they only have beneficial extra effects, not toxic side effects. All right. We will finish this up tomorrow. We'll talk about the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation nervous system as it regards anxiety, and then we will move on. We'll talk a little bit about brainwaves too, and then we'll move on to nitrates and nitric oxide. I've got lots of stuff I want to talk about that, and I've been getting letters about nitrates and nitrates, so apparently you guys are interested in hearing about that, so hang tight. We'll get to that here in the coming days. Okay, 844-236-6010 is our number on the bright side. Time to hit our phones. Let's go off to Virginia and welcome Farhan to the bright side. What's up, Farhan? Good morning.
Hey, Ben. Good morning to you, too.
Hey.
I had a question about acne caused by the liver.
Okay.
I watched the video by you and Amanda Rideout on it.
Okay.
And I noticed that I have some acne on my back, not too much, but near the top of my shoulders, on my back,
Got
I
it.
have there.
Does it come and go? Does it come and go, or is it pretty much always there?
It's always there. I mean, the one on my back, like near the arch, I have like a little bump there. That sometimes comes and goes. I mean, I think it's usually there. I also have acne a little bit on my forehead. That comes and goes for sure. But
how old are you, Farhan? How old are you, Farhan?
I'm 20 years old.
Okay, so you're going to grow out of it probably. Are you lean and mean, or what's your body type like?
Yeah, after taking the Beyond Tangy Changer, I lost a significant amount of weight. So yeah, I am
Lean and mean.
Not too lean, but I lost a lot of weight, so I'm.
You got some muscle development? Got good muscle development?
Yeah, I definitely go to the gym. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right, so it sounds like you're having a problem processing hormones, number one, and this is very common among young men, especially young men who are muscular or lean, because of the male hormone testosterone, or more specifically, the breakdown product of testosterone called DHT or DH testosterone, which is like super testosterone. It's associated with hair loss, breakouts, as well as male prostate problems as we get older. You got a few years to worry about your prostate there, Farhan, but young guys can end up with acne on the back or acne in general from this DHT substance. If your acne is coming and going on the back, chances are your liver is responding to toxicity that kind of appears, then gets broken, then gets handled, and then it appears again, then it gets handled again, and this is not uncommon. So the good news is back acne, which is associated with the liver, is easy to reverse. It happens quickly as soon as, number one, you get rid of whatever the toxicity is that's causing the problem. Sugar is a big culprit, but it could also be dairy, it could also be grains. It's usually some kind of food. And number two, you get into some nutritional supplementation. So let me give you, the food thing is you got to look for some digestive problems. You got to look for especially constipation, but it could be loose stools, gas, bloating, whatever, and then link those problems up to food. You can also see if you notice that you break out worse when you eat specific foods, eat certain foods, or when you go out and drink alcohol. Sometimes it'll get worse because alcohol puts a burden on the liver, of course. Most people know that. So eliminating problem foods and reducing your intake of alcohol or anything else that induces the liver acne, that's step number one. You can also try patching up the leaky gut. That can be helpful as well. Use the Z-Radical or the Fucoid Z for that. Glutamine powder. If you're weightlifting, glutamine powder is also important for building muscle. So that can help you there. Whey protein has some glutamine in there, and that can also help you build muscle. So that's the first half of the first side of the equation. The other side of the equation is nutrients for the liver, and there's lots of them. My all-time favorite, and I do mean all-time favorite, liver nutrient, and maybe my all-time favorite nutrient of all is NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It is so powerful as a liver nutrient or liver supplement that it's found in many emergency rooms, and it's part of the emergency room protocol for liver poisoning associated with NSAIDs, Motrin and Naproxen, and even aspirin can cause liver poisoning. If you go to the emergency room, many hospitals will just stick NAC right in your blood. The very same NAC that you can get at the health food store for $10 or $15 for a 3-month supply. It's awesome for your liver, and that alone will make a difference. Selenium, the ultimate selenium from Longevity, 400 micrograms a day, very important for the liver as well, as is vitamin E. In fact, vitamin E, selenium, and NAC all work together, and even glutamine with that, all work together to help you make something called glutathione and help to help protect the glutathione also. So you may want to try a little bit of that as well. So glutamine, selenium, vitamin E, and also NAC. Got a couple more ideas for you, so don't go away, Farhan. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll get your calls when we come back. I'm 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be back right after this. Okay, we're back on The Bright Side. Farhan in Virginia. A couple more things for you, buddy. Are you there, my man?
I am. Hey.
All right, so number one, digestive health. Link your breakouts to specific foods, and also see if you can track down digestive symptoms. Link those to foods, eliminate those foods. Dairy is always a likely suspect, as is grains, legumes, eggs, and shellfish. I call them the GLEDS foods. Grains, legumes, eggs, dairy, and shellfish. Also, using nutrients, NAC is the must-have, I mean must-have for all liver issues, including liver acne. You might also throw in some selenium and some glutamine. That'll all help you make glutathione, and vitamin E will protect the whole thing. They all work together. Alpha-lipoic acid can also be helpful. And don't forget about the B complex, especially vitamin B5. Very, very important for the liver and for the adrenal glands, but all the B complex is important. And then don't underestimate the importance of vitamin C and zinc, two humble, ordinary nutrients that have very important roles to play in skin health, liver health, and the health of the immune system. Vitamin C may be, 2,000-3,000 milligrams a day in divided doses. Zinc picolinate, 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 50 milligrams a day. The Beyond Tangy Tangerine will get you lots of vitamin C in the B complex. So it's probably a good idea to sip on that. Thanks for your call, Farhan. Anything else? Anything I missed? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, another have you. So, could you tell me some bodybuilding supplements? Anything about that?
Yeah. Everything I just told you is great for the bodybuilding, And then also, when you come home from the gym, whey protein and creatine. Make yourself a smoothie. Throw in some glutamine powder. Throw in some arginine powder. Make sure you're using a generous amounts of essential fatty acids as well. And those are all your major. Well, those are some of the major anabolic nutrients. You can also use creatine, and we will be talking about creatine hopefully sometime next week, but probably the week after that. We'll talk about creatine because that's another very important nitrogen-containing substance. Arginine can help you make creatine too. So if you take some arginine, you can make your own creatine. Got to move, my friend. Thank you so much for your call, Farhan. Have a great day, buddy. Okay, Jacob in Texas, what's up? Welcome to the Bright Side.
Hey, Ben. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned all those things just now because I take all those things as well.
No kidding. Are you lifting weights? Are you bodybuilding or weightlifting?
I lift weights. To say I'm bodybuilding, I'm trying to bodybuild.
Okay, I understand that. How many years? Have you been doing it a while?
Probably for the past 7 or 8 months now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, I take NAC, I take Liver Health. I've been kind of lackluster, unfortunately, on the BTT just because I've been running out of it and I haven't gotten any more in yet, but I take creatine, glutamine, arginine.
Nice. How'd you hear? You just knew about all that, or did you hear it on this program?
Well, I've been listening to you for probably 3 or 4 years now, and I worked at a nutritional shop, so I just kind of gathered a lot of information myself.
Good deal. What's going on today?
So I was just curious. I kind of like the last caller. I still have a little bit of back acne. I take some zinc as well.
Does it come and go, or does it get worse over time? Periodically worse and reverse, that kind of thing.
It just kind of sits there. I mean, it doesn't really come and go. It just
sits
kind
there?
of always there. Unfortunately, it's not a whole lot, but
okay. Well, it's not. It's very interesting how you phrase that because it's not so much that it's a problem or that it's unpleasant to look at, or it's the sign that something is percolating, something is fermenting, something is cooking underneath in the system, and that's how you want to look at it. Not whether it's specifically a problem, but it's the sign of a problem. It's a symptom that something's going on, and it always means some kind of toxicity. You got a lot of lymphatic fluid, lymphatic system circulatory vessels that flow throughout the body, especially in the top of the back, the side of the back, all along the back, all the way down into your butt area, even into your groin. And if you have breakouts in those areas, that's a sign that there's some congestion, some lymphatic congestion, and it could be a harbinger of things to come. And that's really what you want to be thinking about, not so much whether it's unpleasant to look at or it's, you can handle it, you can tolerate it, because anybody can tolerate it. It's not a big deal to have acne on the back from a health perspective. It's not a big deal, but it's a sign of something, and that's what you want to be looking at. It's a sign that something.
The window. The skin is the window into the body.
That's exactly right. It's a window into the chemistry of the body. It's a way that we can access our internal chemistry without having to be tested and poked and prodded and have our blood analyzed. We can do it ourselves by looking at our skin, by looking at our back. So you want to look at something that's getting into the system. So here's the deal. Link it up to other problems. Acne on the back by in and of itself doesn't tell you anything. You got to triangulate. You got to have multiple symptoms to form a picture of what's happening in the body. I know I said it so many times, I almost hesitate to repeat myself, but it's important to understand that you need multiple symptoms to form a picture of what's happening in the body. So look for other things that are going on, and most importantly, look for problems with the digestive system. That's the most likely suspect. If you just want to, just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks and see what helps, use digestive support. Biolumin nightly essence for the gut. Glutamine powder you're already on glutamine powder. How much are you taking, by the way, the glutamine?
I take, 1 teaspoon, which is, I think, 5 grams.
That's plenty. That's plenty.
And I mean, I take after I work out, I take some vitamins, some supplements, like what I said, selenium, zinc, and all that. And then I take it with the digestive enzyme. And then with my breakfast after that, I drink apple cider vinegar as well as a little bit of sauerkraut juice.
Well, these are all the good things, but that doesn't help me, my friend. The good things aren't causing you a problem, so that doesn't do me any good. We need to know what's causing the problem, and I would guess that it's in the digestive system. And I would ask you right now, I would say, do you have any digestive health conditions that you know of, but you may not know of them, Jacob? They're sneaky.
If I do, let's just say I really wouldn't know of them because it would be so so minute, and I wouldn't even notice it.
Without you, it's your job. This is your homework, okay?
Oh yeah.
You gotta look for them. They're there. You can't have acne on the back without having another symptom. It's not like the acne fairy sprinkles back acne dust on you from the sky. You know what I'm saying? It's not like this magical thing that just pops up. It's a sign that the metabolism is off, and there's always going to be other symptoms. And that's the hardest thing to do, is to find these other symptoms. But it's also the most important thing to do if you want to free yourself from medical tyranny. You know what's going to happen? You go to the doctor, by the way, you'll get an antibiotic. Okay, that's what they do.
Oh, never.
I mean, come on.
I'm not going there.
Right, exactly. All right, I got to move, Jacob. Thanks so much, buddy.
Hold on, one more question. I live in Austin, so I was curious, when and what day were you going to review books? I forgot all about that. I was going to get the information. It's going to be next Wednesday the 28th at Brave New Books, which I love, by the way. If you guys are in Austin and you haven't checked out Harlan's bookstore, it's a wonderful bookstore. Maybe call Brave New. You know Brave New Books? Have you been there? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Call Harlan. Ask Harlan about it.
I'll look it up online. Okay.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you so much. Take care, Jacob. Bye bye. Okay, let's go to Austin again. Welcome Wally to the bright side. What's up, Wally? How you doing, my man?
Oh, hi. Great to talk to you again, Ben. I got more than one thing to mention to you, but the number one thing is, will you please do whatever it takes to have your archives accessible 7/24?
Are they not?
Because I
is there a problem?
Your programs more than once.
I intend them to be. I want you to listen to them more than once. There's so much information. Is there something wrong? Is there something wrong?
It's your fault. I don't think it's your fault. You need Genesis or whoever. It's ridiculous.
What? Tell me about it. What's that you can't get on?
It's not founded. When you try to access your archives, it says not founded here in the last few days, and that upsets me.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I'll give Genesis a call. I'm not with Genesis airs the program, but I'm not there. I'm in Colorado.
I understand, and I understand you've got more than a full plate, but that's the most important thing to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Wally, very much. I'm glad you get value out of the archives. I intend for people to get value out of them. So let me call Genesis when I get off the air. I'll give them a shout and see what the problem is.
The other thing, Ben, is this. I look way younger than I am. I'm 70. And that's other people saying that.
You sound great. You sound awesome.
I'm energetic, yeah. But now, here in the last month to 2 months, once every now and then, like if I eat a couple of grapefruits, and juice it and eat the pulp and everything else, I get this shooting pain in my lower GI, like like a excrete a polyp or something like that. And I've never had any kind of testing done because I never have a problem. I don't feel bad at all. I'm great. I'm energy, everything.
Wally, we're at it. We're going to be out of time here in 30 seconds here, but let me ask you a quick question. Do you notice the pain is associated to specific food? And you should try it. If you don't, see if you... Okay, link it up to food, and then see what foods you're okay with that don't cause a problem. And then if you could get back to me with that information, either on the air or in private, I'll walk you through the process. Always link these issues up to foods, and in your case, see what foods you're okay with and what foods you have a problem with. And then either call us back on the program or send me an email with your phone number, and I'll get back to you. Thanks for your kind words, Wally, and I'm going to look into that at Genesis. All right, take care, my man.
Great.
All right, apologize once again. I know I'm always doing this, but you got to call me first early on the program, and we'll try to get to all our calls. Listen, you guys, if I left you on hold, call back tomorrow, and we'll get you first up. Okay, we'll finish up talking about anxiety issues and the relaxation nervous system, how to access it, and then we'll move on to nitrates and nitrogen. Thanks for listening, folks. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have yourselves a spectacular, wonderful, awesome day. We'll talk to you all later. Bye for now.